Hello again. I already found a piece of wood which is much better than this one. We discarded one and use this one. I already traced the lines both sides of the end grain. Only we have to connect them now. This is the only, by the way, 90 degrees corner which I found of this piece of wood, which was from a pallet. This is the only one which is 90 degrees roughly. The other ones are horrible. This one, for example, or this one, even worse. It's not even flat. I don't know if you can see it. So always check if something is 90 degrees before you even would start. I was lucky that this piece of wood had one. Otherwise I would have again planing work. The less work you have, the better. Sometimes. So let's connect those lines. After sawing we will still plane it to its dimensions. So I leave 1 millimeter or 2 more because of the planing work which we still have to do after the sawing work. And on the other side, exactly the same. If you make a mistake, put a little V on the line. I just made a mistake, by the way. Put a little V by the line which was the one which you meant. This one isn't the one. It's this one. This one. So we put a V just in case, so that it reminds us that we have to saw that line alongside that one. Along that line we will saw. Okay, next step, we will have to continue this line and start to cut that line. Why that line? We will cut it through like this because this one is long. Connect those lines which you just traced on the end grains both sides. Let's get started. Therefore we need to move the workbench again because this room is a small one. Okay, enough room, we will clamp it. For the moment we don't need protection from those iron jaws because it's the waste material, so it doesn't really matter. And we make the initial cut, which has to be done correctly. Moment. I always am a bit paranoid because, yes, it's okay, 40 millimeters. Always a bit paranoid because if you cut and it is too small, it's too late. Always check, just in case. We're approaching the end, so start to be careful not to put too much power on the saw, too much pressure. Gently move back and forward. Okay, now we have to connect the line again at this side so that we can work evenly. You get a very clean cut if you use my method, going from sawing at both sides of the workbench. Very, very neat. We will connect those lines from the end grain wood sides and saw once again to obtain the measurements which we wanted. It's 4 by 4 centimeters. We'll check once again because we want something which is okay. And measure. Let's see. This is 4. And here I traced like 37, which is not correct. No, that's 11. 4. Yes, it's correct. Yeah. Just in case, to not make mistakes, trace this one that it's waste. Otherwise, you will saw at the wrong side of this line. Do like this. Then you know that this one is waste material and this one is the correct one. This is the one which we want to keep. So we don't want to make the mistake to saw at this side of the line. We want to saw at this side of the line. Otherwise, this one will be 2 millimeters too small because of the saw. The saw is about, I don't know, 2 millimeters might be. I don't have my caliber here. So let's saw that line. And then we get a 4 by 4 piece of wood. 4, yeah. Attack. Okay, once again, put the jaws on the side of the waste material, because that one doesn't really matter, unless you want to use it in the past, so in future. If you want to use it, then use some piece of wood. Wood. I don't know where the protection wood is. There's a mass here. That's why I'm making the cupboard, actually. In another video I have a couple of videos where I show you how to make a cupboard, and I'm making this cupboard to create some organization here. And I will show you how to organize your workshop, how it should be. It's a great pleasure when you have an organized workshop. It gives you pleasure, gives you inspiration to work. If you don't have such a place, then you will likely not be very motivated to start your projects. So make sure that before you get started at all with your woodworking projects or whatever it is, even metalwork, doesn't matter, that you have a very inspiring place to work at. Inspiring, organized, clean. It will help you, and you will lose a lot. You will save a lot of time as well. Otherwise, you lose by not finding things, having to look all the time. It will cost you minutes. Now we come to the point where we mark our V. Here we should really pay attention that we will sight at the correct place, that we will choose the correct line. It's very clear. Gently move at the end, very slowly, to avoid splintering. Okay, we got our piece. Roughly 4 by 4. It's too big, so we have to plane it still. And yes, I should find my protection wood for the jaws. I have no idea what it was. The piece of wood probably escaped. In this case, we just use this one. Okay, the grains of the wood tell me it goes up that way a little bit, slightly. It goes that way, as you can see. Do you see? I see. Yes, you can see. It goes that way. It means that we have to plane that way, not against the grain direction. Otherwise, your plane will not work. Simply, will stop. And we get our plane, and we plane down a little bit at a time, and check. Every time we will check with our bush cooker if it already can fit into the hole. Lovely wood again. I don't know what it is. It planes very well. Okay, make sure that it keeps square, as the hole is as well more or less square. Okay, now we will do the other side. No, it's not completely square, I see. Check just by eye, eyeballing if it's 90 degrees. Now we do the other side. Again, we check which direction it goes. What do you think? I think it goes that way. More. Yes. I think the plane is a little bit too rough. We check for 90 degrees for square. Yes, it is. And then we check if we are not removing too much material. It's 38. It's already 38, and we measured 38. Remember, 38 by 37. The 38 one is already done. we will leave it that dimension, unless it doesn't fit. It will fit in the future. We still have to plane a little bit, but we will do the other sides. Oh, I have to check which way it goes. This is very clear. The grain of the wood which goes that way, so we will plane that way. Fine, I have to adjust the plane a little bit. It's more or less square. We do the other side. The direction goes, tell me, yes, goes that way. So we plane that way. Okay, this side is slightly higher, so we have to plane a little bit, just to make it square. It's much better now. And here I see the same. This side is higher, so we have to plane it square. Oh, we are going against the grain now. I can feel it. And I see it as well because the wood starts to be very rough. Let me check. Remove too much material. Always go with the grain of the wood. Never go against it. It will make your tools quickly dull, unsharpened. And the result will be very disappointing. Rough wood, not correctly planed. Yes. Okay. Now we go for it. We want to see if it's fitting. Oh, we're far from it. Very far. Still, we need to plane down 1 millimeter and 1 millimeter, I think. I'm sorry, I'm using the metric system. I'm not used to inches. I'm sorry, Americans, sorry, British people. I will have to learn it, of course, in the future. I know some things about your system. 12 inches go in 1 feet, if I correctly remember. 1 inch is 54 centimeters. And a feet is 30 centimeters, 0.48. Anyhow, I'm not used to my apologize for my brothers on the other side of the sea and the ocean. I'm getting a little bit too wild. I start to work a little bit too much with temperament, and then you lose control. You start to forget that you have to work exact. So always be aware of that. Might cost you a finger in the future if you can't discipline yourself and tell yourself to slow down. When you're working at a table saw, for example, and you are working with too much temperament, it can really cost you a finger or even a hand. That's why I prefer to work with hand tools, even though it takes 5 times longer. At least I am sure I will have my fingers in the future. I see this is more a detail because this is not straight. This side is not straight completely, so I will file it out. And of course I know that stainless steel is very hard to work with. So maybe I just should make the wood fit. I'm not sure. Give it a try. It'll make probably a horrible noise. Oh, very surprising. It works. It really, you can do it with a bench file. Probably this quality of inox is not A4, it's A2. A2 is, you can attract it with a magnet, by the way. And it can corrode. But I couldn't find this part in a better quality of stainless. Anyway, it will be the outside. It will just be to protect our refractory material, which is the clay with the sawdust mixed. This is only to protect, so it will not be exposed to very extreme temperatures. But make sure that this is square, otherwise it will cause you a lot of trouble. And now we will check if it fits, and yes, it starts to fit. I see it's the other side now, which is not square. I will also make it square. Okay. I'm not a big fan of metal, but I must admit it is much stronger than wood. You can't make so quickly a mistake when you work with metal. And yes, it starts to fit. I think now we need to remove the burr of these sides And then we will fit again, try to fit, and otherwise we have to remove some wood. When filing such thin material, don't go square down, go diagonally. Remove the burr a little bit because we don't want the burr. It's much better now because I just roughly cut it with such a spinning thing with discs. I don't know how it's called. Yes, we are very lucky. It fits perfectly. Perfect. Next step will be discussed in the next video, and that is that we will fix a piece under this just so that it will be lined up. It should be parallel to the bottom, more or less. It doesn't really matter. And then we have to drill some holes under. We have to drill some holes under this, only at that side, because that side, the side of the feeding hole, will be out of the wind. And here we must be some holes. Don't make the holes anywhere else because there will be the wind, and we don't want the wind to go with a. In some countries there's a lot of wind, for example in South France. We don't want the wind to go very hard into the combustion chamber, because that will cool down the fire too much, and cool fires produce a lot of smoke, which we don't want. So we only will make those air holes to feed the fire under the sticks. The air will come under the sticks of wood, so the air holes have to be under the feeding hole. It's a thing which I'm going to try out. I'm not sure if it will work, but we will see. Thanks for watching.